Welcome to Mornings with Megan. I'm here to give you the information, tools, and resources you need to make the best decisions for your body and your perimenopause. Good morning and welcome back to Mornings with Megan. I'm Megan Piffner, a certified nutrition specialist and perimenopause nutrition expert, and I am really glad that you're here today because we are going to talk about protein. And before you roll your eyes and say, yes, I know I need to eat more protein, hang on, because I have some things to say that might actually change how you think about this. Protein is having a moment again. And while I did eat a high protein Pop Tart in the name of science for you, my sweet Perry friend, I also want to be honest with you about what the research actually says, what it means for your perimenopause body specifically, and why your 1,200 calorie a day salad phase was never a willpower problem. That is where we are going today. Protein matters more in perimenopause than at almost any other time in your life, and most women are not eating nearly enough of it. Not because they're doing something wrong, but because nobody told them what was actually happening in their bodies and gave them a real picture of what hitting their protein goals actually looks like. By the end of this episode, you will have both of those things. Before we get really into it, a quick orientation for anyone new here. I work with women in perimenopause through a framework I developed called the Perimenopause Matrix. It has 6 pillars: fuel, move, recharge, regulate, connect, and clean. Today, we are squarely in the fuel pillar, but when it comes to protein specifically, one of the few fuel decisions that directly affects your regulate pillar, meaning your hormones, your blood sugar, your mood, and your energy. And if you've been listening to the Move series, you already know it is also the raw material your body needs to build and maintain the muscle we spent 3 episodes talking about. So protein is not a siloed conversation. It touches almost everything in the perimenopause matrix. The basics first. Most foods are made of a combination of protein, carbohydrates, and fats. We tend to label things based on the macro that makes up the majority of the food. So we call a steak a protein because it's mostly made up of protein, and a potato a carb because it's mostly made up of carbohydrate. What exactly is protein? It is a chain of little amino acids, which are like Legos that your body uses to build and repair. When you eat a protein, your body breaks it down into those little amino acid Lego pieces and then uses them as needed. There are 9 essential amino acids your body cannot make on its own. Those are called essential amino acids, and that is where the term complete protein comes from, a food that contains all 9. If you want to go deep on the specific protein that is often misunderstood in this context, go back and listen to the Collagen and Perimenopause episode 6. I will link it in the show notes. You can get all of your essential amino acids from combining different plant foods across the day, which is what many plant-forward eaters do. We will get into this in a minute. Here is where it gets really relevant for you specifically. One of the most common things I hear from women I work with is that their metabolism feels broken, like they're eating the same way that they have always eaten and their body is just not responding in the same way. And the research-backed answer is that your metabolism is probably not actually broken. What the SWAN study, one of the largest long-running studies on women's health, showed us is that as hormones start to decline in perimenopause, women become more insulin resistant, independent of age and independent of weight. Your estrogen and progesterone are not just reproductive hormones. They play a real role in blood sugar regulation. When they become erratic and start to step down, blood sugar control can get harder. I want to pause here because this connection does not get talked about enough, and it should be. Hot flashes, the symptom most associated with perimenopause, are directly correlated with higher insulin resistance. So this is not a fringe metabolic conversation. It is at the center of the perimenopause experience for a lot of women. The second thing happening in perimenopause is muscle loss. We start losing muscle mass in our 30s, and the rate accelerates through perimenopause, in part because estrogen is directly protective of muscle tissue. Researchers like Donald Lehman at the University of Illinois, whose lab is foundational in how we understand protein metabolism today, and Dr. Luke Van Loon, whose work focuses specifically on muscle protein synthesis in aging adults, have both contributed to the evidence base that tells us adequate dietary protein is one of the most powerful levers that we have for preserving muscle mass, and the threshold is higher than most people think. For everyday women, not competitive athletes, what moves the needle is not precision protein timing windows. It's total daily protein distributed across meals over a 24-hour cycle. That is my clinical North Star for this. You have 2 things happening in perimenopause that protein directly addresses: rising insulin resistance and accelerating muscle loss. That is the case for prioritizing protein right now in your life. Blood sugar is usually part of the picture when women come to see me. This happens even when women are eating healthy. And protein is one of the best tools we have for this. If I can get a client to start her day with 30 grams of protein and ideally 5 to 9 grams of fiber, we are off to the better energy races. Here's why that works physiologically. Protein is satiating, meaning it keeps you full. It has minimal impact on blood sugar compared to carbohydrates. And low glycemic meals, the ones higher in protein and lower in refined carbohydrates, actually stimulate more natural GLP-1 production in your body. GLP-1 is a hormone that slows how quickly your stomach empties, which means you stay fuller for longer. Your body is doing this naturally when you feed it protein and fiber. This is not a supplement. This is just food as it is. Fullness can also be an issue for clients who feel that they are always hungry and always craving something. And this is where I want to say something important. A lot of women I work with came of age in the low fat, low calorie area. They're trying to get away with 1,200 calories a day, simple salads for lunch, and then they are ravenous by dinner time and craving sweets after dinner. And then they feel like that pattern is some kind of moral failing or lack of willpower. It's not. Willpower is a finite resource and should not be required to make it to bedtime without a shame spiral. I lived in that hunger and craving fuel cycle for years. I have always had a very robust appetite, and when I was younger, cravings all the time. I was diagnosed with hypoglycemia, and the standard recommendation at the time was to eat every 2 hours. I was 19 and honestly delighted by this. I had snacks in my bag at all times and dutifully ate crackers, chips, pretzels, Snickers bars, tacos, instant noodles every 2 hours to keep myself from crashing. You can see where the problem was. This was a serious blood sugar issue, and I had zero education on what caused it, how to stop it, or how to get out of this every 2 hour cycle. I would be starving an hour after I ate, feel like I was going to pass out on the train, and get so irritated and grumpy and anxious if I did not have food. It was a real problem, and I truly understand the pain of anyone in that cycle. Needing, not wanting, needing to eat something specifically sweet that you are willing to put on 15 layers to walk to the store in the dead of winter, that says it all. When I finally started addressing this, I couldn't tell the difference between hunger and thirst, and I had no idea how to feed myself. None. I did not attend the class called How to Eat Like an Adult, and my health suffered for years until I was able to connect the dots with help from some incredible people. So, what does all of this mean for protein Pop Tarts and donuts and sparkling water and candy bars? Here's my honest answer. Protein is really great at helping you feel full and reducing later cravings, but the food environment matters. Research, including a highly controlled NIH metabolic ward study I will link to in the show notes, has shown that higher protein combined with ultra processed foods actually leads to more food being eaten, not less. The blood sugar and satiety benefits of protein diminish and sometimes disappear completely in the context of ultra processed foods. The protein Pop Tart is not going to do what a piece of salmon does. That does not mean that you can't have it, but remember that it is an ultra processed food, and while protein content may help modestly with blood sugar, stability, and hitting your daily total, it's not the same tool. Yes, of course, I eat the protein donuts that Freddie brings home as a treat. That is what they are, treats, just like a fun candy bar or a dessert someplace special. If you have a friend who's been telling herself she just needs more willpower around food, send her this episode. Hit the share button right now in your podcast player and forward it to her. What she is dealing with might be biology, not a character flaw. After years of working through this myself and then doing it clinically with women in perimenopause, here is where I've landed. I am offering these as experiments, not prescriptions. You are the expert on your body. High protein and plant forward foods are not opposites. I hit around 120 grams of protein a day and sometimes close to 45 grams of fiber from whole plants, not fiber supplements. That is what works for my body, but the point is that you can eat a lot of vegetables and plant foods and also eat animal protein. It can be an and, not an either or conversation. Serving size matters more than most people realize. Lots of foods have protein in them, and how you choose to hit your protein goals is up to you. Poultry, seafood, meat, eggs, dairy, soy products like tofu and edamame, hemp seeds, and buckwheat all fall into the complete protein category, meaning they contain all 9 essential amino acids. But you also have to consider what it is actually takes to hit 30 grams of protein from each source because the serving size are not equal. I'm going to put a full breakdown in the show notes, but here's a quick preview. 4 to 5 Pause. 4 to 4.5 ounces of animal protein in fish gets you to 30 grams. So do 5 large eggs, 1.5 cups of Greek yogurt, or 10.5 ounces of tofu. Hemp seeds get you there in about 5 tablespoons, which is actually quite doable. And then on the plant side, you're looking at 2.5 cups of cooked lentils, 3 cups of beans, or 3.5 cups of peas. Think about it this way: 4 ounces of chicken and 3 cups of black beans are both protein sources, but one is about 185 calories, the chicken, and the other, the beans, is closer to 680 calories. Neither is wrong, but if you're going to be building a plant forward plate and trying to hit 90 grams a day, you need to know the math going in because it changes how you plan your meals. You are the expert on your body. You will hear a lot of practitioners, myself included, in other episodes recommending 1 gram of protein per lean body weight or ideal body weight if recomposition is a part of the goal. That recommendation assumes that you are actively resistance training and doing some form of cardio. If you are not there yet, 90 grams is a solid, achievable place to start. And for anyone on GLP-1s, that 90-gram floor is non-negotiable. It is the minimum I use as a target for protecting lean mass while the medication is doing its job. There is no universally right way to eat, and I have yet to meet anyone that I have bumped below 90 grams, but I am sure that that day will come. The ethics and access conversation deserves more than a headline. There is an incredible amount of nuance in the conversation around protein sourcing and environmental impact. It is not black and white, and it is often hijacked by clickbait that gets everyone worked up. You can be an ethical carnivore and an unethical vegan. One of the things that frustrates me the most in the ethics and environmental debate is the access gets completely lost. It is not cheap, easy, or convenient to be a healthy plant-based person. It requires time, energy, money, quality ingredients, education, supplementation, and regular lab testing to make sure that you're doing it well and safely. I grew up in a food environment with real access and real choices, and it still took me years plus a graduate degree to figure this out. Expecting someone without those resources to take on the burden of ethical protein sourcing is tone deaf and unhelpful. We need to address the food environment and food access before we can put that kind of weight on people who are already navigating food insecurity. One more thing before I go. This is specifically for anyone considering GLP-1 medication. Research presented at the Endocrine Society's 2025 annual meeting out of Massachusetts General Hospital and Harvard Medical School found that up to 40% of weight loss on a semaglutide can come from lean mass, and that women and older adults are at higher risk for that muscle loss. Resistance training and adequate protein intake can significantly offset this. If you are on a GLP-1, protein is not optional. It is what protects your muscle while the medication does its job. I covered the resistance training side of this in episodes 22 and 23, and both are linked in the show notes. If today's episode made you want to actually look at your protein intake, the Perimenopause Symptom Coder on my website is a great place to start understanding where your body is right now. If you want to go deeper, the Matrix Lab Review is a 30-minute session where we look at your labs through a perimenopause lens and build out a real strategy around what your body actually needs. Both links are in the show notes. Thank you so much for being here today, and I will see you next Wednesday. Can you do me a favor? If this was helpful, share it with one person who might need to hear it today. Our bodies didn't come with a user manual, and this perimenopause thing can feel confusing and lonely. But you're not alone, you're not crazy, and you're definitely not broken. And maybe someone in your life needs that reminder too. Let's spread the word and be kind to each other and ourselves. Now the legal bit. I'm a nutritionist, but I'm not your nutritionist. This podcast is for information and education only. No client relationship was formed. Always seek medical advice when necessary. I'll see you next Wednesday morning.